stream plea for the Civic Licensing Committee.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Civic Licensing Committee. I'd like to remind all attendees that this meeting is being recorded and webcast live on the Council's YouTube channel, and I would ask all remote attendees to mute their microphones whilst not speaking, unless they wish to speak, and they should do so by raising their hands remotely. Can I also remind remote members attending meetings where hybrid meetings are quasi-judicial matters are being considered that they are not permitted to participate by audio only and must have their video and camera functions switched on at all times. So going to item number 1 on the agenda is apologies for absence.
Yes, Convener, we've got apologies from Councillor Gavin Nicholl and Councillor Bess Whiteside. Today we have Councillor Brays joining us remotely and the rest of the members are in the chamber.
Thank you very much. Item number 2, declarations of interest and statements of transparency. Do we have any from members? Okay, thank you. I've seen hands. Item number 3, minutes of the previous meeting. These are being submitted as approval as a correct record at the meeting of this committee held on the 18th of June 2026. Is this agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much. Item number 4, exclusion of public and press. The committee is asked to note that the public and press will be excluded from the meeting during considerations of items 11 and 12, so as to avoid disclosing confidential information in terms of sections 50A brackets 2 and brackets 3 brackets B to the Local Government Scotland Act 1973. Are we happy to agree that?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Item number 5, delegated approvals. This is report number 20426 by the Acting Director of Legal and Democratic. Are we happy to note?
Noted.
Thank you. And we move on to item number 6, exception to cinema licensing conditions. This is report number 205, and we have Rachel Kaplan attending with us remotely, I believe. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
I will give you the opportunity to talk to your application. Thank you. Oh, actually, just hold on for you there. Okay, just an update for the public and for yourself. This one So at the moment we have, because Councillor Nicholl is absent, we are no longer quorate for Group 1. So we cannot make a determination on those films today. Group 2, the films within that, we will be able to because we are quorate for that one. And we will come up for a solution for Group 1. So in that case, back to you, Rachel Kaplan, for your application.
Just extending huge thanks to the councillors for, again, reviewing the independent and international films that have come in to be shown at this year's festival. It's the 4th annual year, which we can't believe already. The festival there's a lot of buzz this year. We are excited to bring this programme to Montrose with films and guests from all over the world here to talk about the environmental issues that mean so much to all of us, our sea, our coast, our food and farming, wildlife, industry and economy. So we're excited for the event next month. The films, as a general trend, we're seeing that more films are being made every year and are now there's a desire in the public to see these types of stories and films. So the good news this year was that 6 of the feature films we'll be showing were already BBFC licensed and will be releasing in cinemas at the end of this year or early in 2027. So we were happy to submit fewer feature films for review to the committee and encouraged by this trend that these films are now finding general cinema release. But we just hugely appreciate the time and care and thought that's put into approving the other submissions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you have any questions for the applicant from any members? No, thank you. Don't think we had any objections, did we? Anything from LSO, anyone else? No, nothing there. In that case, discussion for members. Any questions, comments for members on the Group 2 films, specifically Group 2? No. Okay, in that case, we'll go back to you, Rachel Kaplan, for to give you the opportunity to sum up, should you wish, specifically with the films that were in Group 2.
I haven't divided into 1 and 2, but if there are questions about any of the films, I'm happy to answer them. Okay,
thank you. So the groupings were in the public papers, but
sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. So I will invite motions from members specifically just on the films in Group 2. Councillor Clark.
Yes, thank you very much, convener and colleagues, and yourself, Rachel. Happy to move that I'm perfectly happy with these. They're made for interesting watching, and that's really all I'm going to say. That's all I meant to say. So, yes, I'd be happy to move.
Seconder, Councillor Scott. And
4 and 5, because you're subbing for Councillor White.
Yeah. So for ourselves in Group 2, so that's Councillor Clark, Councillor Meakin, Councillor Councillor Louise, Nicol, and Councillor Scott. Are we happy to agree that? Good. So that's agreed. So they've been approved. So for the films in Group 1, what I personally would propose is that we hold a special meeting on Teams to decide these films, whether or not we can agree them. So I'd be seeking some volunteers from Group 2 to additionally watch the films that were part of Group 1. Ideally, I'd like maybe 2, possibly 3, just to make sure that we don't end up convening a special meeting where we're once again no longer for it for whatever reason. So Councillor Meakin, is that?
Yeah, I would be happy to do that.
Anyone? Who have we got in Group?
It would be Jill.
Councillor Scott and Councillor Clark.
Brilliant.
Okay. So are we happy to convene a special meeting just on Teams so that we can resolve this?
Time frame are you needing to watch these?
How long do we think we need to watch the films? So the festival is the 11th to the 13th of September.
And then we'll find a date.
Okay, so we'll go through everyone's diaries and find a convenient time and date so that we can convene that.
Can I also suggest that we just send out the stuff again, just to make sure, and so that we're crossing every T and dotting every I.
Okay, so that's the plan. We will convene a special meeting. All the information will be sent out to everyone that's volunteered with the films to watch, and then committee officers will go through diaries and we'll propose a new date and time for that. Are we all happy with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
Agreed.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Councillor Brace, did you want to say something before we move on?
Yes, I just wanted to make a comment. This is an issue and it is cumbersome and it's not ideal. We all know that. But this is brought about because Montrose Playhouse Cinema stick to the rules. The legislation requires us to do this. They apply to the council, to the licensing committee for permission to show these films. This is not the case in many other. So congratulations, I think, to Montrose Playhouse Cinema for doing the right thing and sticking to the rules.
Thank you. In that case, so we've agreed the films in Group 2. And if you're unsure about them, Rachel, we will we'll send you an email just to confirm what those films are.
Thank you.
And then we will, obviously you'll get an invite to come back to the special to go through for the films that were in Group 1. and we can go through those to make sure that they're done and dusted in time for your event in September. Okay?
Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. Thank you so much. Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which is item number 7. And this is new short-term lets application. This is report 20626. And this is for flat 1177 High Street, Montrose. And I believe we have the applicant here, which is Rachel Muir, joining us remotely. Is that you there? Yep, thank you. Okay, Ms Muir, I will give you the opportunity to talk to your application. You can go through your application and then we can come back to you with questions after. Okay, thank you.
I actually have a representative there on my behalf, Shan.
All right. Is that yourself? Do you want to come forward and take a seat? And then Fiona will just go through with you how the buttons work.
That puts on your mic.
Perfect, thank you. So the objections that Rachel's obviously faced is due to the bins and possibly potentially antisocial behaviour. Rachel is willing to put a factor into place that would do the weekly bin schedule, make sure that the bins are being maintained. The bin situation is also maintained by our cleaners who check to make sure that, one, the bins aren't overflowing, the correct bins are being used, and if there's any extra rubbish, it gets sorted and taken away. The bins would also be clearly marked to say that they are those properties' bins, and also inside the property there would be a notice to say basically these are the specific bins to this property, please don't use any other bins. If there's excess rubbish, leave it in the premises and it'll be taken away. In regards to antisocial behaviour, we've got quite a few properties are in mixed-use blocks. We've never received a single complaint as to noise, excess, bad behaviour or anything like that. The type of clients that we have staying with us are mostly contractors and workers who are in the area for either working on the ports, any developments going on around about Montrose. So that is kind of the clientele that we go for. Rachel's property wouldn't be any different to that. So in regards to antisocial behaviour, it's not something that we have seen, or if it was something that would come up, obviously the guests would be asked to leave immediately. We would also implement quiet hours, so between certain hours from 10 o'clock at night till 8 o'clock in the morning, the guests are asked to be mindful of the neighbours in the block, and again, any issues, they would be asked to leave the property immediately. The other concern was of the gate that's at the bottom. So when you come down the lane, there's a gate at the bottom, it's got a code, put the code in and you go up the stairs. Obviously that code would have to be shared with all the guests, but the guests, again, that we have, they don't know anyone from the area, they're not passing on the codes to random people in the street. Once they've been and left, that code no longer applies to them. They don't need or want to use that code again. So in regards to the code on the gate, I mean, I don't know if it's something the neighbours want to, once a month it gets changed, or, you know, if we put something in place to kind of deal with how they feel about the code being passed out. But again, it's the same with the lock boxes. Guests don't pass on lockbox information to anyone else, and they're only the ones that are staying in the property actually gain the access to any codes. They're never passed out, and nobody else would have any form of access to anything. I think that's all. Is there anything else, Rachel? Good.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for the applicant or their representative from members? Councillor Speed.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for taking the time to come today and explaining, you know, the measures that you're looking to put in place. I think for me, the key thing that stood out was around the safety and security, and as you described, the gate and the key code, and how that would have to be given out to tenants, and that kind of could be quite a turnover of tenants as well. I guess once they have that number, though, they've got it. Yeah. And, you know, there are no guarantees, unfortunately, in life that could, you know, there is a risk that could be misused. So I know it's a really difficult one, but is there anything else that you could do to try and address that kind of issue and those concerns to make it as safe and secure as possible?
Yeah, I think that, so I've owned the property for many years. It was previously a long-term let. I mean, the gate code's never been changed. It's been the same. So obviously there's been multiple tenants in my flat and in the other flats. But I think putting a factor in place or having more of like a property management company there, and then we change the gate code every month or every 3 months, you know, that enhances security for everybody ongoing, regardless of whether that's a short-term let or a long-term accommodation.
Thank you. Any other questions from members? Councillor Meakin. We'll come back to the comments. Any other questions? No. You'll see there's 2 objections in the papers, and none of those people are here in person, so it's just literally what's there in front of you. We've got no other objections from any other department, so we can now move to your comment, Councillor Meakin.
It was just on the keypad. I mean, keypads are obviously used in lots of places nowadays. One option could possibly be just use a key, and when a tenant moves out, the key comes back. But just a comment.
Thank you. Anything else from any other members? Nope. In that case, I'll move back to Ms. Muir and your representative. I'll give you the opportunity to sum up if you wish to. The floor is yours.
Yeah, so I think what you've just said in regards to the key, the gate, again, we would need to speak to everyone in the block. Rachel obviously has personally as well tried to reach out regarding the bins and stuff, but I wonder if there would be scope for that gate to then be changed to a locking gate instead, and then rather than there being a code to get in, the guests only get that key goes back at the end of every checkout. Again, it's something that we would need to speak and discuss with the other tenants in the block, but everything else that we can do to put in place to satisfy bins, antisocial behaviour and noise and stuff, we already implement that in all of our other properties anyway, so this one wouldn't be any different.
Thank you very much. In that case, we can now move to motions from members. Councillor Meakin.
Thank you, Convener. I would move that we grant the application subject to standard and any other conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark.
I would second this, and I think you've done your best to mitigate certain things, and I hold you to that because it's very important that you do. I think we need tourism, obviously, and we need to expand tourism. I balance that against the crisis for housing, but I do think, you're not to be blamed for that. So provided you do these things you're saying, and provided you be a good neighbour, then I'm happy to support you and wish you all the very best. So I second it.
Thank you very much. Anything different from any other members? No. So in that case, we are happy to agree to grant the application subject to the standard on additional conditions. Thank you very much. You're most welcome. Thank you. We will now move on to the next item, which is 41 India Lane, Montrose, and I believe we have Mr. Craig Fleming with us today. Thank you. If you'd like to take a seat. So I'll give you the opportunity to talk to your application and tell us a bit about it, and then just make sure you turn the mic on and off when you finish. Thank you.
Sure. Yes, I'm the agent for this. The owner is Karen Belshaw. I think you've got on the licence application there. I own and run Bides in Montrose. We're based on Montrose High Street. We operate about 20 short-term let accommodations, mostly in Montrose, some around Angus elsewhere. Most of them are for contractors, people that are working in the area. I'm sure you know there's a high demand for that from Montrose Port and wind farms and Glaxo and Baker Hughes and everything else that goes on in and around there. There's a lot of demand for accommodation for people that are working in the area, and there can be a mix, to be honest, of Monday to Fridays, but there's also multiple months, in some cases multiple years of people staying in the same place. Typically these properties are used for people that are out working 12-hour shifts. They come home, they have something to eat, they go to sleep, and they get up again in the morning. In my experience, they are usually better, or at least quieter, neighbours than potentially long-term tenants can be. Obviously, I'm wide brush on that one. This particular property on India Lane is a residential area. The property itself benefits from its own front door. It's got a front garden. It's got its own access. It's a 2-bedroom property. The sort of lettings that we do with it, it's likely that that would be 2 individuals that stay in that property. At times, possibly just 1 individual is in there. With regards to the objections, the majority of them seem to mention the notice being displayed incorrectly. We put it on the front door of the property. Now, admittedly, that is down a short path from India Lane. If that's an issue, I hold my hands up and take responsibility for that. We weren't trying to hide it. I do think it's slightly ironic that we've got 4 objections from people about the notice because they've obviously all seen it. But normally, we've submitted multiple licenses and I don't see objections usually. So, but I get it. Maybe it looked like we were trying to hide that from view, and that's caused a bit of an issue. The other objections that I see relate to the parking. Parking is an issue in India Lane. It's not great for access. I don't see that as being different from being a residential property to being a short-term let. The front garden area could be converted to a drive or a parking space for that property. It's something that neighbours have done, and it's something that the owner is willing to do, if that helps, if that's possible for the neighbours also. Yeah, noise, I think I've covered. I don't think that short-term let property brings more noise. I mean, this is a 2-bedroom small property, like I said, aligned to contractors. This isn't a party house with hot tubs and everything like that. So it'd be a pretty small party if somebody did have one. Yeah, I don't know if you've got any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions from members? Councillor Clark.
Hello, Mr Fleming, we've met again.
Hello.
Just really to say that, and I suppose you've had this question at other times, in terms of the adjacent people staying there, people that you've already addressed their concerns, when it comes to nuisance value, that's a biggie, isn't it? So if there is a problem, and you're not envisaging any problem, if there is it clear to say who they would contact and how quickly could that be addressed? Big question, but just please try to answer it.
I can, if it helps the neighbours around there, I'm happy to share our contact details so they can get in touch straight away. In fact, when we first took on this property and started off the licensing process with Karen, I shared my business card to the neighbours. I'm happy to circulate a contact details sheet that they can use. We've got an 01674 number that's manned from 9 in the morning till 8 p.m. at night. After that, it comes direct to my mobile number. The difference with short-term let versus tenancy is we can ask guests to leave. If there's an issue, if there's a noise complaint, if there's anything like that, we would just ask them to leave straight away. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Fleming.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Braze.
Yes, thanks, convener, and thanks for your presentation. I'm wondering that there are various objections to this, and for various reasons, and one of them is the question of the notice that you put to inform neighbours of your application, and it was on the front door of the property. I'm a Montrose councillor. I did a wee drive by. I can sort of understand why people, neighbours are concerned about this, because you can't read what's on that notice on the door unless you walk up the path to the property and read it and walk back down, and you've no idea what that piece of paper on the door is about. You don't know. You can't really see from the pavement whether it's an Angus Council notification or whether it's just a message to parcel delivery people.
Yep.
So it's not really obvious. So I can understand why objections came forward about this once it was published and all the rest of it. So that might explain that. But my question to you is, did you give consideration to putting that notice somewhere else? And was there anywhere else that it really could have been put?
There absolutely is locations that it could have been put, such as on the fence, on the shed, or on the wooden gate, which is all adjacent to the road. It was a mistake, and I guess a lesson on our part. It's various other properties where we've done the same. They're on the street, and we're used to putting it on the front door. And I think in this case, we just did what we usually do and put it on the front door and didn't think about how visible it would be from the street. However, this has had more objections than any other licence we've ever put in. So although it maybe wasn't visible to people to go and read it as they would like, I don't think it's hampered the local knowledge of this property becoming a short-term let.
Thanks for that.
Thank you. Councillor Meakin.
Thank you, Convener. My question's on the same subject, but it's to legal. This notice has been displayed. Has it been displayed properly, given the rules on display of notifications?
Thank you, Councillor Meakin. I'm actually going to turn it back on you and say it's a matter for you to consider whether, in light of what you've heard, you think that notice has been displayed properly. There is provision within the regulations to allow you to stop the application now and require the applicant to redisplay the notice for a period of 21 days and then submit a further certificate of compliance. So that is within your gift to request.
Could I ask that you remind us of what the condition regarding the notification is? It's something like a public place or something, is it?
It is. It's within a public place. It's easily viewed by members of the public and for a period of 21 days at or near the premises.
With that then, I mean, we're at this stage, could I suggest that we ask that the notice be redisplayed in a more public place? Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions for the applicant before we move on? Councillor Speed.
Yeah, probably would just need to take legal advice on this one, but it was in relation to one of the letters that were submitted, and there is an allegation in terms of unlawful eviction. Is that relevant to this application? Can I question?
Hold that for a moment. We're still on questions for the applicant. So are there any other questions for the applicant? And if not, then we can move on.
Okay, well, yeah.
No more questions for the applicant. Okay, with that, we'll move on. So there are objections within the papers, and we do also have possibly Lynn Shewan possibly calling in. Do we know if she's able to?
Convener, we've tried to get a hold of the objector and she's not answering her telephone, so she's not in the meeting.
Okie dokie. Excuse me. In that case, I'll move to building standards. I think. So.
Oh, they're not here.
No, they're not here.
There's nothing for them. It's business support.
So business support, as you'll note in the papers, it does say, excuse me, To date, no certificate of compliance has been received from the applicant. Can we confirm if that is still the case?
I can confirm that's still the case. We've not received a certificate of compliance.
Okay, so we can now move to discussion. So, Councillor Speedy, if you want to come in with your question stroke comment.
Thank you. Yeah, the question really was just around the objection letter and the allegation of an unlawful conviction, and just whether there would be anything within there legally that would mean that, yeah, there was anything that we should be mindful of when taking a decision.
Thanks, Councillor. You have to take it at face value as to what has been brought in. It is an allegation. The objector is not here to expand upon that, so it's up to you to place what weight you think is relevant on that, and that would then perhaps link into the fit and proper person test. If you're of the view that that has taken place and therefore the person is not fit and proper to hold the licence, it may also link into the applicant being able to secure compliance with the mandatory licensing conditions for that. But as I say, the weight, it's up to you to put whatever weight on that allegation.
Anything else from any other members? Councillor Meekin.
Can I maybe ask legal, would there be a civil remedy for the tenant had there been an illegal eviction?
There's both. It would be a criminal offence, but it would also be a referral. I think it would be to the tribunal, the housing tribunal, in terms of a remedy for the affected tenant.
I'm going to ask a question to members here with regards, you've seen in the objections about the notice that was displayed. So I want to ask, are we happy that it was displayed as we would expect or not? Because that will then dictate where we then go next. If we decide that we were happy with it, we can then move on to either granting or refusing. If we're not happy, it kind of starts the process again. So we need to decide what we want to do. Councillor Meekin.
I'm not happy with the way it's been displayed. I don't think if it's as said down the lane, and not, I would imagine it would have been much more public, so you would actually see it if you were going along the street or whatever.
Councillor Clark.
I think that's very important, Chair. I have often mentioned being a good neighbour. It's so important. That's really quite, just for me, very basic. I would rather, I'm not suggesting I would turn it down or anything, but I would rather people knew what was actually happening without having to actively going to great lengths to find it.
Councillor Durno, did you have your hand up there?
It was just to agree with other councillors that, you know, other people wouldn't have mentioned that they hadn't seen it if they had seen it. So.
Thank you, Councillor Braze.
Yes, well, similarly, it's an important part of the process that neighbours are notified. This is the way we do it. I don't think we write like planning does to the neighbours to notify them. Their only way, really, is to see that notice, and I don't think it was prominently enough displayed, and that's my opinion.
Okay, so can I, just to reaffirm, can I just have a quick show of hands for people who feel that the message, that it wasn't correctly displayed? So that's unanimous. Okay, so in that case, what we'll do is we're going to defer the determination of this application until, what was it you said?
To allow the notice to be displayed.
To allow the notice to be displayed, and then it will then come back. Okay.
Yep. Will we be sent a new notice with new dates on it? Should we modify the old one? What do we do from here?
Yeah, business support will be in touch in due course with you.
Okay.
Okay.
No
Thank
problem.
you. Thank you, everyone. It's a little more complicated than expected, that one. So we will now move on to Teeling House, and I believe we have Elizabeth Kelly joining us. Good morning. You'd like to take a seat. So first of all, as you'll have seen, we'll give you the opportunity to talk to your application and then expect possibly some questions from members. So it's down to you. And just remember to turn on the microphone, and then that's it.
Hello. I've just jotted some notes down because I was a bit nervous. So I live at Teeling House. I moved in last year and I wanted to rent a couple of rooms out in my house. I've submitted everything for my licence application in June, but the fire safety advice that I'd been given and I had implemented was deemed unsuitable when the fire officer visited me. I've had a lot of remedial work done, but I found it hard to get it done on time due to my working full-time and trying to coordinate with people to come and do the work. My husband died unexpectedly last year just after we moved in. And so I'm having to manage everything myself. And this is why I'm renting rooms. I, of course, want the house to be safe for visitors, and all recommended work will be ready for inspection by the fire officer when he comes on the 25th of this month. I don't think there were any objections to my application. My close neighbours have been supportive of my plan to rent, and they know why. Also, I don't think there are any objections from environmental health, the police or planning. Can I trust that when the fire inspection is satisfactory, I'll be granted my licence? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And on behalf of the board, we offer you our condolences. Are there any questions from members? Councillor Clark.
Hello, Ms Kelly, and like my colleague, you've been through a tough time, and I don't want to be adding to that, but I have a duty. So one thing I wanted to say, I think what's glaringly obvious here is the safety issue with fire. Would you be able just to tease that out a little bit? I mean, I know that if you get it, let's hope you can get that in time, but can you just explain a little bit? Because they would have spoken to you, I'm sure.
Yeah, so basically, I was given advice a few months back that just said I needed to paint intumescent paint on the doors because it's a historical house, so I couldn't change the doors, and I had to fill in gaps and have a full linked fire alarm system, which I did, and door closers on the two main doors that come up into the area that would be rented from the ground floor. And so I did all those things, but the advice really wasn't enough. So, you know, with respect to the fire officer, he was wonderful and he took me around everything and he said, you need door closers on every door into a corridor. You need even more smoke alarms in the corridors and lighting in the corridors. I have some, but he said it wasn't enough. There's a stairwell, which is a secondary fire exit down through the ground floor of the house. And in that stairwell, there's a door top and bottom, and there was no lighting that would light that in the event of an emergency if the power went off. So I've had that fitted. It now has a separate power feed and everything. So that's all done. I've got signage throughout the house. As per instruction, I have door closers now on every door to the hall and every bedroom. And now I have intumescent strips and smoke seals around all of the doors that lead onto a corridor and both the kitchens and the boiler room door. So I think I've fulfilled now everything that I had to, and just have to wait for the fire inspection on the 25th next week.
Could I have a supplementary?
Of course.
Ms Kelly, I think what you've done is quite admirable, but I still need to know, I mean, was this date dictated and they won't shift that any so that you could have had it beforehand? Was that possible? Or were you just given this date and there was no shifting it?
There was a date that I was originally given, but I didn't have enough time to organise it all on my own. And I really hoped I would and that it wouldn't come to committee, but I just couldn't get it done. I really tried. And I worked as fast as I could. So the secondary date was given to me by the fire officer for the 25th for another inspection.
That's fine, Miss Kelly. I don't wish to add to your troubles. I just need to know.
Thank you. Any other questions from members? Nope. In that case, we will move on. So there is an objection from the fire service. I don't believe we have anyone from the fire service here as a representative. Double check. No, we don't. So it's just what's within the papers. I will give you a little update within the application itself. As you will note in the papers, it says to date we have not received a certificate of compliance from the applicant, but it's been confirmed that that has now been. No, it has not been received. It's not been received. In relation to the statutory notice, so there is still that outstanding. With that, we will move to any discussion from members. Any other comments, questions? Councillor? Mrs. Kelly, give you the opportunity to sum up for your application if you wish to. If there's anything else you want to say.
No, I just want to thank everyone for their time and hope I get my licence sometime soon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone. Councillor Meakin.
Thank you, Convener. I would move that we defer the application for a period to be decided to give the applicant enough time to do the works required for the licence.
Thank you, Councillor.
If that's admissible, Chair, and legal in terms of the time, I would agree to this because I think we can give Ms Kelly enough time to pull things together and in the hope that she manages that.
Councillor Brace.
I just wondered if this was something that could be delegated to officers, i.e. wait. Once officers are satisfied that the fire certificate, etc., are all in place, then they could land.
Thank you, Councillor Brace. So am I hearing that what you're suggesting is that we grant the application subject to, well, under delegated authority on receiving the relevant paperwork from... Authorise
legal services to grant the application on the receipt of a positive fire inspection report.
Did you catch that?
Sorry, I whispered that one. Sorry, if I'm understanding you correctly, you are delegating the grant of the application to officers only upon receipt of a positive fire inspection report subsequent to the inspection on the 25th of August.
That's correct. There's nothing else outstanding, is there? That's the only bit of the back that's what I'm suggesting.
And the certificate of compliance, so we can add that one in. And in that case, I would be more than happy to second you, Councillor Brace. So, are we happy with that?
Yes. We got there, Chair. Well done.
We got there in the end. Thank you. So, yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We will now move on to Benmore Apartments, 2 Queen's Close, Montrose. And I believe we have in person Mr. Fraser Walsh and Janine Anderson, who's attending us remotely. Is that correct? Mr. Walsh?
Good morning.
Good morning. As you'll have possibly seen it, we'll give you the opportunity to talk to your application. So just use the button to switch on the microphone while you're talking, and then after that there may be some questions from some of the members for you. Okay?
Good morning all. Thanks for the opportunity here. My name's Fraser Walsh. We're part of W9 Developments. We purchased Queen's Close from Angus Council in 2003. We have sought planning permission and building warrant for minor alteration works to this and change it from, it was originally a HMO, or a residential that had a failed HMO application, into a Class 7 hotel. The permission has been granted for the change of use class, and we have been operating as a 4 apartments or 11-roomed hotel for the past 18 months. We recently had a business rates assessment carried out, and the assessors was of the view that it wasn't a hotel but a short-term lets, 4 short-term lets. From that, we were advised to make the application for a short-term let licence. So we've made the application to for the short-term let licence, and as part of that, we've had a Scottish Fire and Rescue Service inspection at the start of the month. He identified some items that didn't satisfactorily pass the fire safety. So we have implemented all of these fire safety measures since that inspection at the start of the month. I've been spoke to George Murphy, who's the Fire and Rescue Officer. He's having a revisit on at the end of this month to ensure that all the items that were picked up are satisfactorily dealt with. And from that, we hope that once we've had that satisfactory, we're able to move forward with the application for the short-term let licence. Just with regard to the operation of the premise, we have housekeeping teams and maintenance teams who are not permanently on site, are there at least daily. We have carried out training with them in light of the Fire and Rescue Service observations, and have making through replacement emergency lightings. Where there's been some insulation strips on fire doors, we've replaced them, adjusted fire closers, and set up the fire in places, as well as having a qualified engineering team carry out a 3-hour lighting test, which were one of the items that were missing on the Fire and Rescue Services observation. We've also updated our fire risk assessment plan and re-established our means of escape for the building. In terms of operation, we've had a successful operation for 18 months with no issues with regard planning, building control, fire and rescue, environmental health, and even we have a good relationship with our neighbours. I hope once we've had the successful fire inspection again at the end of the month, there are no other matters that would be pertinent in terms of obtaining the short-term licence. Thank you. Sorry.
That's okay. Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for the applicant from members? Councillor Brace.
Convener, and thanks for attending today and talking to your application. So we have the fire thing. Can you confirm that neighbour notification has been displayed?
Sorry, yes, neighbour notification has been displayed, yes. That was
yes,
on the, yeah, just on the lamppost directly outside the front door of the premise on Queen's Close.
That's fine, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions from members? No. So just a quick little update. Yes, you're quite correct, Councillor Brace. It does say in the papers that we've not yet received the certificate of compliance. That has been received, and that the planning application has been approved. So we can tick that box as well. So the outstanding thing is the fire certificate, which you can see from the objection, and you'll also note as well that within the papers that the police have been asked for comment but have not yet received So it's entirely up to yourselves where you feel that you have enough information to determine on this. Is there anyone that wants to make any comments? Councillor Meakin.
Thank you, Convener. Just it's been a long morning. The fire approval of the from fire is still outstanding. So this is rather like the last application. Could we do the same again? Is actually delegate that to officers when that fire inspection is approved? Is that a possibility?
Yes, absolutely it is, provided you're satisfied that all responses that you want to see have been received. Just that's why the one from police was highlighted.
Yep. I think if we've sent something out to the police and they haven't responded, we can't take anything into account from the police then, can we?
So ultimately, that's for us to decide. We've requested information from them, whether they want to make any form of objection or not. They have not responded. So it's up to us to decide whether we think that actually there is enough information here in front of us and from what we've heard from the applicant that we can make a decision. So like the last one, we could delegate that authority to officers on the fire certificate coming through. However, if you feel that you do want representation from the police as well, we would then need to defer the application and bring it back. So that, and we'd also want to know from the police why their representation was also late. So that would kind of be our choices, Councillor Meakin, and then we'll come to you, Councillor Brace.
Yeah, thank you, Convener. We've heard quite a few cases, and generally what we do is if we hear nothing, then we discount it. I mean, we've just heard one where someone, where they tried to contact, they didn't get in touch, so we just say, well, if you haven't got in touch, I don't see any difference with the police.
Thank you.
Just say, I think we've got enough information to decide.
Thank you, Councillor Brace.
Yes, I'd certainly concur with Councillor Meakin there. The fact that there are no objections from members of the public and there is no objection from the police before us today, I think it's a fair assumption that if the police had huge concerns about this, they would have made sure their representation was here in time. And again, the fact that there isn't any objection from neighbours would suggest to me that there's no great concern about this, and I think we should just treat this the same as the last item and delegate. Thanks.
Thank you. Just to highlight, we haven't received no objections from the police. We've received no response from the police. So they may wish to object. We don't know, they haven't responded. But I take your point, Councillor Brace. Thank you. Anything else from anyone else? No. In that case, Mr. Walsh, I shall.
Jamie Hughes.
Oh, we have a hand up from. PC Hughes, if you want to give us a response to this application, first of all, you need to tell us why that representation is late, and then if we agree to accept that, we can then hear what you have to say.
It was just to say that we don't have a record of having received an application for that address on our system.
Bear with us just one moment. We're just checking with business support at the moment to confirm whether or not something was sent to the police for them to respond to. So bear with us just 2 moments.
We'll take a
We'll take a 5-minute recess to give business support an opportunity to come back to us. So we'll reconvene in 5 minutes. Okay, thank you.
Please, Civic.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for your patience. We've been in touch with business support, and what they've come back to us with is that it will require a bit more of an investigation from the IT side, which isn't something that can be done quickly. So that will take a little bit of time. So it's up to us to decide whether we want to continue without the representation from the police and with what's here in front of us and what we heard from the applicant. If the police then do come back at some point with any form of objection, they can put forward a request that we suspend the licence, which would then bring it back to us, or we can carry on as we kind of did previously with the last one. So it's entirely up to us whether we're happy to continue or whether we want to hear that representation from the police, if they have one at all. So what are people's thoughts?
Is it okay just to ask a question around when that fire inspection date is? Because that might end of the month. Okay.
We were speaking with George Murphy to see if we could do it ahead of this meeting, but unfortunately his first availability was the end of the month. Yeah.
Members, are we happy to continue without the police information and with what we've got in front of us here? Yes, Councillor Meakin.
Yeah, can I ask if we do the same as we did with the previous one, so we're actually saying that we will, in a sense, delegate, but that can't be decided until the fire have reported back. That, I presume, gives a short period for the police to get back. And if the police get back, I'm assuming then it would have to come back here. Yeah? Yeah, you see what I'm getting at? Yeah.
I see where you're going, Councillor. So in effect, you're delegating the grant of the application subject to a positive fire inspection report and no untoward response from police.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so that sounds like where we're going. So I'm going to go back to the applicant and give him the opportunity to sum up, and then we can come back for motions and amendments. So, Mr. Walsh, I'm going to hand it back to yourself to give you the opportunity to sum up on your application and what you've heard in discussions. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, I don't think I've much to add other than we're pretty confident with the fire inspection at the end of the month, and I appreciate that's critical to the key point and your point with the police, so just appreciate your time and thanks.
Thank you very much. In that case, motions from members. Councillor Meakin.
The motion, as originally stated, is that we delegate this to officers on proper completion of the fire and also depending on any police report that may come in that period.
Thank you very much. Councillor Nicholl, happy to second that. Anything different from members? No. Thank you very much for your patience. There we are. Thank you. We will now move on to item number 8, which is the Annival Welfare Establishment application, and this is report number 20726. And this is for the All Bully Charity Rescue at Hapas Canine Centre, Hapas in Forfar. And we have with us today Kerry-Ann Shaw. Welcome back. Thank you. And Mr. Jacob Cohen, who is joining us remotely. There we are. Thank you very much. You've been with us before. Welcome back. Who would like to talk to the application? Is it yourself, Ms. Shaw? Or? Okay, it's down to you. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The committee will be aware that this application, now in its third guise, has been somewhat of a labour of love to this point, lasting about 2 years. When I appeared before the committee last year, it was acknowledged that in order to address the concerns that were raised at that time, the charity had recognised that they required to conduct substantive renovations to the building itself. Subsequently, the reception block has been completely overhauled, Other areas have been partitioned or segregated with electrical improvements undertaken also. However, efforts were also focused on processes and record keeping, as well as a drive to bring in and train more volunteers. Ms. Shaw has been unwavering in the dedication she has to the dogs in her care and has very much been the driving force to move this venture to the stage where it can meet the licensing requirements for the sake of those dogs above all else. I'm pleased to see that the latest assessment report highlights the progress made on her part with numerous marked improvements, including in record keeping, as well as the overall success of those renovations, which bring us to a stage where the Animal Health Officer concludes that the general and specific conditions applicable to this type of licence are now capable of being met by Ms. Shaw. By way of an update since that assessment took place, the current number of dogs on site sits at 27. While the kennel space at Hapas allows for 32, I would stress that 2 kennels would always be kept clear for operational aspects, and so the maximum number of dogs would never exceed 30. There remains an ongoing effort to engage and train more volunteers, one specifically focused on administrative support. But in the background to that, it still remains a key objective to ultimately have 1 full-time paid staff member come on board as well. The committee will appreciate that in order to employ a member of staff, certain requirements and registrations are needed. While the charity All Bully Rescue is registered, it is so in England only, which would not encompass. In the very beginning, some 3 years ago, Miss Shaw was effectively operating this venture on her own, with a similar amount of dogs in situ as there are presently now. And yet across that sustained period of time, to present, including police visits and welfare spot checks, as well as the free application assessments that we've had, there has never been a single issue with the actual health and welfare of the dogs themselves. I would say that that speaks highly to Miss Shaw being able to manage all that falls on her day to day. But my overarching point is that the intention is not to stand still now, but to continue to move forward and to secure more support around Miss Shaw with regards to staffing. I don't think the committee need to hear from me any further than that, standing the terms of the report itself by Ms Reaney, confirming that the licensing conditions are indeed likely to be met, unless there are any specific points members would like me to add further colour to.
Thank you very much. Does anyone, Councillor Clark?
Thank you, Convener. Hello again, Ms Shaw, and hello, Mr Cohen. Just as part of your summation there and information, good information, can I just go over, because we've got this support from Ms Shaw, which is critical, and you mentioned the difference in Scotland and England when it comes to charitable status and employing a full-time person. Can I just ask you to repeat that again, please? Just that bit of what you've just said. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So the underlying charity, All Bully Charity Rescue, is a registered charity, but at the moment it's only registered in England. The main operations are in England. The only Scottish venture is Hapas Kennels. And so they had been waiting until a licence had been approved in order for an application to move forward to cover that for Scottish operations. So obviously when that application is granted, which we hope it will in due course, that will enable her to move forward with those plans to bring somebody on board and formally be an employer.
Thank you, Mr Cohen.
Thank you. Any other questions from members for the applicant? Councillor, yeah, of course.
Thanks for coming back again, Ms Shaw. It's a lot of work for you. This may be quite a basic question, but what is the average age of an XL Bully dog, and what are the ages of the dogs you have at the moment?
So we have 4 XL Bullies at the moment, and they're all round about 4 or 5 years old. We sadly lost the oldest one. She was about 9. She died 3 months ago. Sadly, it was multiple organ failure. But yeah, so we're down to 4, and they're all middle-aged at the moment.
What is the average age of, like, you know, I know Labradors.
How long they live?
Yeah.
Normally between 10 to 12. Some can go a bit older, but generally.
Yeah, so they're all quite young dogs then.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions, Councillor Speed?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for coming along today. With regards to the emergency plans that you have in place and for in the event of having to evacuate the building with the dogs, can you just explain a little bit as to, like, you know, is that something that you've kind of done a trial run of, and how long does that take if it was just you on your own carrying that out?
We have done it with the main volunteers, more trained up volunteers, and it's more of a simulated evacuation. So we haven't done a full evacuation of all the dogs. So we'll do a couple of camera dogs and obviously train the volunteers to follow those procedures. So the first phase is if there's a fire in the first block, then you would close the dogs in the opposite block into their bed. That would effectively create 2 separate kennels, so you could move the dogs across while you're assessing the risk of the fire. If you would need to fully evacuate, then we would have 2, 3. Jeremy is also on site all the time, so we would have at least 2 people to facilitate the full evacuation. If the premises had to be closed, then we do have emergency boarding kennels that we would contact and ask them to help with boarding the dogs.
Okay. Is it okay to ask a supplementary with regards to if you were on your own, though, which at this stage it looks within the papers that there are times where you're lone working. How long would it take yourself to, like, evacuate one of those blocks?
It wouldn't take very long. If you're doing a full evacuation, then it would take longer because you have to set up all the crates outside and everything. I haven't timed a full evacuation or anything, sorry. But yeah, it would. I mean, it could take a bit of time. Obviously, you would work as quickly as possible. You don't want to leave the dogs in the kennels any longer than need be. And as I say, Jeremy is on site all the time anyway, so if there was an emergency like that, I would have him there for help.
Thank you. Councillor Brace.
Sorry, thanks, convener. Yes, my question was, well, I have a couple of questions really, and they're to do with this emergency situation and the practicalities. I would assume the first thing you have to do if there's a fire in the building is get the dogs out of it as quickly as possible. And to do that, you're going to have to be able to get them into the outside area that's secured by a perimeter fence so the dogs can't escape. They are dangerous dogs after all, some of them at least. So the perimeter fencing, it's not buried underground, but it is a double fence. Would you be able to bury the first section of the fence to make that perimeter more secure? Is that a possibility for you? Is it practical for you to do that?
I'm not sure how to do that without redoing the whole entire fence. I'm not sure if that's doable. I mean, the fence is secure. It's as Lynn says, there's no chance of any of the dogs escaping.
The other question was regarding where rates. I'm reading from the premises suitability report here. Rates which are used to be used for emergency procedures are stored in the exercise yard. This should be fenced off. Is that practical for you to do?
The fence, so the crates that are stored at the end of the field, I've actually sent Jacob a picture this morning because that's been fenced off now. That was done this week.
Okay, thank you very much, Miss.
Councillor Scott.
Morning, thanks. Oh, afternoon now, sorry. Thanks for coming again. I can see that you've got more volunteers, which is fantastic, but I note that on the times that they've visited, there's been no volunteers with you, it's just been you yourself. So again, the ratio is 1 to 26. So I wonder if you could maybe talk me around your volunteers and how often they're there. Thank you.
Yeah, so we have Mark is in most days, we have Katie, Kelly that come most days, and Jill and Wendy, but they are different times. Different people have different responsibilities, jobs, their own families and things. So there are times when I am on my own, but the majority of the day the volunteers are in. There are certain times where I prefer to be the volunteers to come in later, so I prefer the volunteers to come in once the kennel's been cleaned and everything, because there's no point in volunteers and winding up all the dogs and creating all sorts of mess when I'm just cleaning. So yeah, that's the reason why people haven't been.
Sorry, I forgot to add to my second question in the first time, so I'll just go for it now. I noticed that the volunteers don't have access to the system, it says in the report here, so is that something that you're going to do?
Yeah, well, my thought process with it was I can't really rely on the volunteers to update it as and when needed. A lot of the time I feel like I would be managing the volunteers to do that, so it was just easier for me to fill it in myself, but I will be training the volunteers to access and log everything, yeah.
Councillor Meakin.
Thank you, Convener. The question is, I'm looking at the papers in 5.5. The licensing authority must grant the licence where the licensing authority is satisfied that A, the standard conditions are likely to be met. Now, I know that there's a lot of things to be taken into account here. If we then move to the officers'
Here if you want that.
report, yeah. It says there, I, Landrini, Animal Health Officer, blah, de blah, de blah, the applicant is likely to meet the conditions. So there's direct evidence there, I think, from a specialist officer to say that the conditions are likely to be met. And if we accept that, then we must give the licence. Am I correct in that, yeah?
Yes, that's correct, Councillor.
Thank you. Any other questions to the applicant? No. And there are no objections. So
the only thing
okay. So we're going to come to environmental health now. See if there's anything they would like to add or talk through any of the report.
I would, just like to reiterate about the numbers of volunteers. In other similar establishments, the number of volunteers are like 36 upwards trained volunteers. There is a big need for more people in your situation. That's really about numbers, and also about the numbers of dogs. You know, until you've actually got those numbers of volunteers in place, you know, you've got dogs there that can be rehomed, and in the amount of time that you've been there already, you've brought more in, but none of the ones that could have been rehomed have been rehomed.
Make a point on that. I purposely
I'm afraid, no, you can't, sorry.
Right, sorry. And it's basically just getting the numbers down to a safe level so that the welfare of the dogs is the main priority. I mean, the dogs are lovely. I've been out there, you get kisses, they're lovely animals, you know, and their welfare is the most important thing. So to actually have a sanctuary where the rest of their life, you know, if they're middle-aged dogs that are going to last for another 8 years, 8 years in kennels is a long time. You know, to make their welfare the highest priority is going to take staff and resources, and that's basically what I would like to see happen.
Thank you very much. And so just to highlight the report there, the application from the charity requests 32 number of dogs. The recommendation in the report is a maximum of 26 based upon the staffing levels, so just highlighting that. So with that, are there any questions for environmental health? Councillor Scott.
Well, I'm not really sure if it's for environmental health, maybe more Stuart. Are we able to cap the numbers? Is that something we could?
Yes, Councillor, you're entitled to add additional conditions to a licence, so that would be something within your gift.
Councillor Nicholl.
Yeah, I just want to confirm, earlier on, did they not say that there was 27 dogs? Is that correct? So they've taken on an extra dog since this report.
Any other questions for environmental health? Councillor Speed.
Yeah, thank you. So just for clarity, what you're saying is that the current staffing levels, or Shaw and the volunteers, isn't enough. You don't feel that there is enough of a kind of ratio to
Legally,
dog to staff?
there's not a set figure. But for safety wise and for the welfare of the animals, then yes, I think there needs to be at least double what they've got now. We can't really cut down the number of dogs because that's what's there at the moment, but definitely not increasing, and put forward to reduce the numbers by rehoming what can be rehomed. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
Although there's not within legislation a number, a figure, we do have to be satisfied that there is sufficient people to dog ratio. Is that right? And you don't feel at the moment there is?
I would agree with that, yeah.
Councillor Clark, and then Councillor.
Yeah, Convener, with your indulgence and just with respect to my colleagues' expertise there, I'll go back. Mr. Cohen explained to me very well about the timeline for getting, because the word support comes into this a lot with this lady that's trying to do her best for these animals. So I'm just thinking in terms of, you mentioned the timeline of getting this extra person. Now, that extra person to me is pivotal, because that extra person can be the person, and I come from a voluntary sector background, who can then train volunteers should they be there. So for me, it's that piece in the jigsaw that we haven't got, and I just don't understand. I can see where you're coming from with the different legal situations, I suppose, or at least the different bit of the legislation in Scotland for volunteers, or at least for employing people. That was the word I'm missing here. So I'm just wondering, in terms of when we could get over that, is that...
Sorry, Councillor Clark, we're in questions for environmental health.
Oh, right, I beg your pardon, sorry.
The opportunity for questions for the applicants been and gone, I'm afraid. Councillor Meehan.
Thank you, Convener. It's a difficult one, because we're reading a report here from, is it Lynn? Yeah, you're Lynn. Which says that in your opinion, the applicant is likely to meet or is capable to meet, which is obviously direct evidence to us. We've actually got something in the report that says that if that's the case, and we accept it's the case, then we must grant a licence. So the bits about numbers, which there are no numbers, to me are a bit immaterial. I mean, yes, it would be nice if there was only 5 dogs there, but there aren't 5 dogs there. There are 27 or whatever it is. But if there's nothing in law or elsewhere that says you need 1 to 6 or something like that, then yeah, I find it.
Kenny, do you have a question for environmental health, or is it a comment?
Question, I don't know if it's maybe more appropriate for legal to answer it.
Okay, just before I take your question then, are there any other questions for environmental health with regards to the report? If not, we'll open the floor up to discussions, starting with Councillor Brace. And if you want to ask a question to legal, you can.
Okay, thank you, Convener. My question, or questions perhaps, to legal is, where this committee minded to grant this application, etc. Presumably, we can add extra conditions to it. Am I right in thinking that?
There is an ability to add additional conditions. You'll need to give cogent reasons as to why, particularly taking into account the report from Environmental Health.
Okay, well, were this committee minded to grant and add extra conditions, would it be competent to add a condition that no more dogs are admitted into the kennels without the express consent of, well, it could be either this committee or our welfare officer? So that's one. And the other thing is, can we put conditions on so that ongoing for a period at least, we could determine that the facilities will be subject to regular inspections from Angus Council? I don't know, what's the inspection regime at the moment? How often are they inspected? And
okay, so thanks, Councillor. I'll address the first one, and then I'll probably defer to colleagues in ECP about the inspection regimes. I'll give a general comment on that. In terms of restricting additional dogs, what you need to be aware of is that the report recommends a cap at 26, and it's on that basis that the animal welfare officers are saying that the applicant is likely to meet the conditions. So it would be a case of, I think, saying, if you were minded to grant, that is on the basis of what's in the report, and that the numbers would be 26, although we have heard, obviously, there's 27 currently. In terms of the inspection regime, certainly the applicant would be required to continue to comply with the conditions. I understand that any complaints about animal welfare would be investigated, but there may be an actual inspection regime, so I'll defer now to ECP.
At the moment, unless there's a complaint, we're not there. But if it was licensed, then yes, it would be. Depending on how we thought the business was going, we could do regular inspections.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Or... Yes, carry on.
Thanks, Gavina. I'm not happy that this establishment has all these animals at the moment without a licence. I just don't think it can continue in this scenario. And I would like it if the licence was granted today on the conditions that it's subject to a year, be asserted for a year. Can we do that legally? Sorry, Stuart.
We'll get back to you on the answer to that one.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody else want to say anything before I give the applicant the opportunity to sum up? Okay, if there's nothing else.
It's only 1 year, so I've got it.
It's a year.
Initially, it's a year licence. Sorry, Councillor. Initially, it's a year licence, and thereafter can be renewed for 1, 2, or 3, and that will depend on what recommendation comes in following inspection.
Perfect.
Okay. The opportunity to sum up. Do you want to take that, or do you want to? Is it Mr. Cohen?
I'll leave it to Jacob, but I'll just thank you for your time. Thank you.
No problem at all. You're most welcome. Thank you. Mr. Cohen, so if you'd like to sum up.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Meakin largely stole my closing submissions, but you'll be aware that the regulations do state that the licensing authority must grant a licence where the licensing authority is satisfied that the standard conditions are likely to be met, and the report certainly speaks to that. What I would just stress again is that the position is not to stand still once Ms Shaw has the licence. There is a volunteer drive ongoing, and the intention is to continue to grow numbers. In the background to that, as has already been addressed, the longer term goal is obviously to bring in one paid member of staff to address the fact that sometimes volunteers can be somewhat unreliable, and to give Ms Shaw more of a backbone of support. Beyond that, I don't think there's anything I can add. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to open it up to members for motions. Councillor Meakin.
Thank you, Convener. We've been round the houses with this one, as we all know. I think this is maybe the third time that we've actually heard this. The difference this time round for me is that we have a professional's report to one of our officers which says that the conditions or whatever are either met or likely to be met. Given that, and reading the legal aspects of this, it appears to me that if we accept that, I know we can take other things into account, then we are bound to actually give the licence. So given that, I would recommend that we actually grant the licence. We know it's for a 1-year period, and add a condition that the amount of dogs are capped, certainly initially, to the 26, 27, whatever it is that's there. Yeah, and that's my submission.
So just to confirm the number, because it's currently 27, so do you want to have that condition set there so the maximum is 27?
I think it would have to be 27, or we'd have to get rid of a dog somehow. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Brace.
We'll be very supportive of that, but with one added condition that for the first year of the licence, that the establishment is inspected on a 3-monthly basis by our officer.
Okay, so that's a motion seconded by Councillor Brace
With an additional condition.
with an additional condition. Councillor Clark.
Sorry, just to say I'm happy with that additional condition to add it to the motion.
I might not get away with this, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm really hung up on this full-time person because I think it's all about the support here. I'd be happy with what's going on here, but I need to be really assured that that's going to be expedited. Because if you get that person in, they'll be able to get, I think, some volunteers.
That's just an advice.
Yeah, I think that's more advice. It's not something that I don't. Yeah, we don't have the power to do that. We don't have the power to put in an additional condition for that. As Mr. Cohen has explained, that obviously once they then get registered with the Scottish Charity, then that then frees them up to do other, like take on a member of staff. So yeah, so we have a motion from Councillor Meehan, seconded by Councillor Brace with an additional condition. Is there anything other different from that from anyone? Councillor.
Sorry, can I express, I guess, what my concerns are and maybe just get a bit of feedback? I guess it's the word likely, and given how big a situation this is, the report, the safety and protection of you, the dogs, and everyone else that supports or works with you, it's that word likely. Is that just because that's all that can be selected within kind of legal speak, that limits that to sounding more assuring? Because I guess on the word likely, I don't feel as assured as I should. But I've also heard that because that word likely has been chosen, we then are kind of legally obliged to agree. So just, am I interpreting that legislation and the wording correctly?
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, that is the wording in the legislation, and that is for the assessment of the grant of the application. Obviously, if an application is granted, the conditions come into force, and the applicant must comply with those conditions. So at the moment, we're saying it's likely that they will comply. In effect, they will have to if the licence is granted at that point. I should also clarify that the conditions relate solely to animal welfare. They do not relate to any welfare of humans. That is dealt with under other legislation, so we need to keep that part separate. What we're talking about is animal welfare here.
Okay, so again, Councillor Meehan has put forward a motion, seconded by Councillor Brace with an additional condition. Are we happy with that, or do you want to put forward an amendment to that?
Yeah, I don't feel perhaps I've got strong enough grounds in terms of the refusal, given what's been set out in terms of the legislation, and everybody else appears to be minded to support. I do feel more satisfied given that there are conditions put in place and those regular inspections. And of course, as we say many times in licensing, a licence can be granted, but it can also be taken away should there be any concerns.
Okay, so if there's no...
I was just double checking, so it's granted, dogs capped at 27, and environmental health inspectors to inspect on a 3 monthly basis. Is that correct?
Okay.
That's the proposal. Yes.
If there's nothing to the contrary, then congratulations. Thank you. Right, thank you everyone. We will now move on to, where are we? Item number 9, taxi and private hire licences. This is report number 20826. We have Tina Kidd with us, so if you would like to stand to you, go for it.
Good afternoon, councillors. I hope you can hear me clearly. This report is presented to committee to provide financial information for the period 2025-2026 and estimated budget for 2026-2027 in relation to the income and expenditure for taxis and private hire driver and operator licences. Committee is asked to determine the fees to be applied to taxi and private hire driver and operator licences with effect from the 1st of September 2026. I'm very happy to take any questions on the report, members.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for Mrs. Kidd on the report? No, I think she's going to get off lightly with this one. In that case, we'll move to the recommendations if there are no questions. So number 1 is to note, number 2 is to note, number 3 is to agrees to make no change to the fees to be charged in respect of taxi and private hire operator and driver licences in respect of the period 1st of September 2026 to the 31st of August 2027, pending the outcome of the ongoing review of the council-wide internal recharging procedures and implementation of the new IT system within the licensing team. And number 4, to note the fees. Are we happy to agree all of that? Agreed. Thank you very much. We shall now move on to item number 10, which is Wheelchair Accessible Vehicle Action Plan amended, and this is report number 20926. And who have we got? It's Tina again. So over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, convener. Members asked for further information to be reported to this committee to assist with decision making, and that's in relation to actions 2, 3, 4, 5 and 8 of the action plan, which is outlined in Appendix 1 to the report. Additionally, the report also seeks members to determine the criteria to be used for assessment of applications for grant funding. Members, there's quite a lot in this report, so again, I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Questions from members? Does anyone have questions? Okay, I'll take that.
After reading this report, Tina, I actually was on the TACTRAN meeting this week, and I've asked one of the leaders of Transport Scotland's accessible travel policy team if there was any funding they could find out from Scottish Government, because I noticed in the papers you were going to ask Scottish Government to see if they could get some funding for this, or you were going to ask about this. So I've asked for it on our behalf, and we'll wait and see if there's anything comes back. Okay.
That's excellent. Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so as Tina said, there's a bit for us to do in this bit before we go through, and so we'll take the recommendations one at a time. So the first is to consider the action plan amended, outlined in Appendix 1 to the report, and further information contained within the report. So that's to agree that one, is that correct?
Agreed.
Yeah. Number 2, consider and determine what proposals to progress in terms of action 2. So action 2, we are, it's on page 64, so it's consider a revised and discounted fee structure. Anyone have any suggestions or?
Quite happy with it.
Go on.
I don't really think that taxis will be too chuffed about the idea about how they will be charged if they, their fees will be higher if they don't have field shared taxis. I don't think that will go down very well.
I think we in Angus are in a difficult position where, specifically when it comes to WAVs, the Scottish Government target is 20% of our fleet are WAVs. I think off the top of my head, if I remember rightly, we're sitting down at about 3%. So we're disproportionately missing quite a few for various different reasons, hence why we set up the MOG to sort of to go through with this. Part of that to try and increase the numbers. I mean, for example, Perth and Kinross, they're sitting at 18–19%, so they're a lot closer to the 20%. Yes, we've got geographical challenges because we're geographically very large. The taxi trade itself is a fragile one, as you know from previous discussions we've had with tax. So it's a balance of how can we, what can we do to increase the amount of WAVs as per Scottish Government recommendations. We want to get up to that 20%, but how do we do that by taking the trade along with us at the same time? I mean, in the budget, we put forward money as a way as an incentive for people to get a WAV. We did that, so there is an amount of money available to help assist that. Another part of it is what do we do with the charges? How do we incentivise people, the operators and drivers to pick up a WAV? And from a licensing authority, we're quite limited as what we can do. One of these options is to consider a difference in fee structure. So is there the possibility to give a new operator of a WAV or WAV drivers a discount as a way, as an incentive, along with what we put forward at the budget to start driving a WAV? But as you all know, that the licensing, it needs to wipe its face financially. So if we're going to reduce a fee for WAVs, it's got to come from somewhere else. So there would be that difference in there. So that is effectively what Action 2 is asking us here to make that decision on. What do we want to do?
I think I would rather see if we could get some funding to help the budget rather than penalising taxi drivers who are struggling as well at the moment. I do get the point. We have to get the money from somewhere, but I would rather see if there was funding available to adapt taxis or buy new taxis rather than penalise the normal taxi driver.
Anyone else on this particular part? Councillor Meakin.
Just to check my reading of the papers, is it the case that any decision made here will then go out for consultation and any feedback will come back to us?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thanks.
So, is it the opinion of the Committee for Action 2 consider a revised discount fee structure that we make no change and leave the fee structure as it is? Is that the consensus of the committee? Councillor Speed?
Yeah, so if we take this decision today and then there is to be the consultation, we've already taken this decision, so we're not going out to consult to ask the trade.
No. Tina's going to...
Councillor Speed, this is a proposal. So what I've asked you to do in terms of there are a few parts to 2. This is only 2A. What I've asked you to do in relation to this is to create a proposal to put out for consultation to the trade. And then that information will be collected and brought back for you to finalise what your decision will be. So this isn't a final decision by any means. These are just the proposals that we're going to seek consultation with the trade in relation to.
So,
okay.
I think, colleagues, on that basis, I'd be minded to have that within the consultation as a proposal. And, you know, the hope would be that we would get a good response to that consultation. And if there is clear, strong objections, then we would, you know, consider the feedback at a later date. But we do need to do something to address the unmet need.
Councillor Clark.
Well said, Councillor Speed. We sat on that members and officers working group to consider these taxis and just hopefully give them something to help them with that unmet need. We've just had explained very well from our legal person there, so we're not setting anything in stone here. So number 2, yes, that's been well explained. I'm perfectly happy with that.
Okay. Can I'll just double check with Tina for this one. When we're considering the revised and discount fee structure, do we have to decide what that structure is to put out to consultation?
Yeah, that information was included from finance colleagues to allow you to understand the offset. You know, if we reduce by 250, etc., etc. I was looking for some sort of proposal from members around what they consider to be an appropriate level of offset. But if you're not feeling like you can do that just now, perhaps I can suggest that we put this forward as a proposal, and I can put the appendix out as part of the consultation and seek feedback from the trade in relation to that.
Okay, I see a lot of nodding heads there. Councillor Scott.
Yeah, I was just going to come in and say I think that's fair. At the end of the day, it's for the first. I appreciate, and you know, we've had lengthy discussions around this, Councillor Speed, long before you were on the licensing board, because we all do appreciate that something has to be done around wheelchair accessible vehicles and maximising those, or well, increasing them. So yeah, I think it's fair that the trade have the say, and it comes back to us. So yeah, I would appreciate that appendix being attached. Thank you.
Okay, we're all happy with that. So the next part of action 2 is the consideration of the removal of Angus zones limitations for WAVs only. So as you see in the report, there are 4 zones. Angus is split up into 4 different parts, and the taxi drivers can only operate in the zone that they have. So what we're asking is to consider that for WAVs only, Angus is one whole zone. They can operate anywhere within Angus. What are members' thoughts on that? Councillor Speed. Oh.
Yeah, I would support this being within what we're proposing to do. I think it provides flexibility. And let's say, for example, there's an event on in one locality, like a music festival or event like we've just had in Brecon of late. This is just an example. It would then provide that freedom for those WAV operators to be able to move to where the need is, which I think is hugely important. So yeah, I'd support this remaining within the proposal.
Yeah, I would have to absolutely agree with Councillor Speed, and something I've been quite clear about from the start as well, within the MOG, that we need to do as much as we can within what we are able to do within the licensing authority to try and get that number of WAVs up, and this is really quite a simple one. Did you want to say anything, Councillor Clark?
I'm really happy with that. I think that's about the only way you can assist without being so dictatorial. It certainly helps.
Again, this will go out to consultation as well. So are other members, Councillor Brace, see your hands up there?
Yes, I'm happy for this to go out to consultation, and bearing in mind that, you know, if it does land up that this is the way that Angus Council proceeds regarding WAVs. then that can be reversed at a later date if we land in the fortunate position that we have an abundance of WAVs and we don't need it anymore.
Thank you. So are we happy to agree to the removal of the Angus zones for going out for consultation? Yeah, that's unanimous. Thank you. The next part is to consider no requirement for passing the knowledge test should zones be removed from WAVs only. So the knowledge test is required for owners and operators to do, memorise the maps, do all that. So again, this is something that would be within our gift as a licensing authority to remove. It kind of goes part and part with the previous one about zones. Again, I'm quite happy for this, that we would ask that for WAV drivers only, that no knowledge test is required in order for them to gain the licence, in addition to there having no zones. That's my view. Councillor Meehan.
Yeah, I'm just trying to work out in my head why that is. Is that because if you're allowed to go for the whole of Angus, the knowledge would be you'd have to have the knowledge of the whole of Angus rather than just your actual area?
That's part of it, yes, but also, I mean, as it says within the papers, it's a licensing authorities may require an applicant of a taxi driver's licence or private hire licence to take a knowledge test in the area they relate to. So it's up to us to decide whether we want to have a knowledge test or not. Yeah.
Thanks for that explanation. However, I can see the reasoning making sense if it's because the knowledge test, if we applied, it would have to be for the whole Angus. That makes sense, which would be much more difficult than me knowing Kerry Forfar. But we are then arriving at a situation where we've got a difference between WAV drivers, and normal taxi drivers, where a normal taxi driver for Kerry Forfar or whatever will have to pass a test, but the WAV ones won't. But I do see the reasoning behind that. Thank you.
The way that we're kind of looking at it is we're looking at it as a way of trying to remove a barrier to try and get more operators and drivers both into WAVs, and these are the sort of the sweeteners, I suppose you could call them, to sort of try and persuade them to go that way, to try and get that by removing the zones, by removing the knowledge test. It makes it easier for people to get that. Yeah, so that is why we've included that one. Councillor Speed.
Yeah, and I think we base this decision in terms of removing the knowledge test on that the knowledge test is purely looking at, you know, the map, the streets, and knowing your area. And probably when this was first put into place, we didn't have things like sat-nav and the ability to be able to, you know, have a guide to help navigate. However, again, like the other proposals, should during the consultation feedback come that actually, you know, suggests something that we've maybe overlooked on this, then we can of course take a different view when it comes to making a decision.
Councillor Meehan.
Yeah, sorry to come back again. Just so I'm clear, there is no knowledge test for a WAV driver. So we'll say I have a business and I employ someone to drive a WAV. Can they only drive a WAV? Or can I let them drive anything? So they come in as a WAV driver, no knowledge test, they work for me, I can use them any way I like. Yeah?
I think it'd be right in saying if once you have your taxi driver's licence, then yes, as long as you're driving a licensed vehicle.
Councillor Speed. Sorry, Scott.
You threw me there. Looking at me. How to word this, right? So are we then, obviously we're desperately needing to increase the WAVs, right? We all recognise that. It's something that we've spoken about forever more. However, are we then putting ourselves in a position where we, given what George has just asked, that we're treating people more favourably than the other, and could that be contested? That why would a normal taxi driver licence for a regular car have to sit the knowledge and yet somebody else doesn't? So do you think somebody could contest that? we're putting ourselves in a difficult position.
A valid point. So I shall bring in Tina if she has her hand up.
So I think at this stage, we're simply trying to put proposals together to put them out to the trade. I suspect what will come back is quite important and valid information from the trade about how they feel generally about knowledge tests and whether or not this is something as a licensing authority we need to review as a whole process rather than just for wheelchair accessible vehicles. So what I would suggest at this point is members are being asked to simply consider proposals with regard to WAVs, and that's what the report is about. We'll put that out for consultation and we'll bring back in I think what will be very, as I said, very important information and feedback from the trade generally about whether or not that is something that, as has been highlighted, perhaps isn't as important as it once was, given sat-nav, etc., etc. So I wonder whether this will start a conversation more broadly about this issue rather than just for WAVs. But they are just proposals at this current time.
Thank you. Are we happy with that? Okay, so we're happy to include that one as well. Okay. Last one on action 2. An operator licence conditions to be reviewed to implement a policy whereby an existing WAV can only be replaced with a similar vehicle type. So that's basically when a vehicle comes to the end of its life for its trade-in or whatever, if it's a WAV, it must only be replaced by a WAV and nothing else. So quite simple. Are we happy with that one, or are there any question? Yeah, happy with that. Okay. Councillor Meakin?
Not sure I'm particularly happy with it, but since it's only consultation, then I'm happy to.
Okay, thank you. Right, I'll go back to the recommendations. So we're now 3, direct the acting Director of General and of Legal and Democratic Services to carry out consultation, which is what we've agreed, so we're happy with that. Agree actions 3, 4 and 5 of the action plan amended, and direct the Acting Director of Legal and Democratic Services to progress said actions where required. Are we happy to agree that? Yeah. Agree the proposed criteria for receipt and assessment of applications in the Wheelchair Accessible Taxi Grant Fund, and whether to instruct the Acting Director of Legal and Democratic Services consultant where all taxi hire drivers licensed by Angus Council in relation to the proposed criteria. Happy to agree that. And finally, note that a further report will be placed before members when the information gathered from the consultation period for further consideration, review and final determination. Happy to note that. Thank you, everyone. So we will now stop the live stream while we move into private.